IVM.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach podcast. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach, and today we have a fantastic guest with us, Steven Whitney. He's a SOMA Breath master trainer. And it's so interesting because I've heard about SOMA Breath in the past. I've never really researched it. I haven't experienced it. And as soon as I found Steven, I was like, oh my God, I must have him on the podcast because, breathing is such an important aspect of all that we do, right? We're born breathing, and half of us never even think about it. So I think the breath is something that we all should start focusing on. And I wanted to create this podcast so that you can learn about breath from a master trainer. How cool is that? So Steven, welcome to the Habit Coach podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So what is breathing according to you? Let me start off with a very basic question. What is breathing?
Well, I'll give you two perspectives on this. One, before I started training in pranayama, breathing is just something that's natural. It's part of the autonomic nervous system. It runs on autopilot, and it's something you very rarely have to pay any attention to. And growing up, we're not taught to pay any attention to it at all. Now, fast forward years later, and that I've trained in it, breathing influences a set of actions and reactions to almost every single part of your physiology or neurology or biochemistry. It influences everything. Every time you take a breath, it's a domino effect and a trigger of actions and reactions to your mind and your body. And this is why it's so important that we start to bring awareness and knowledge to how we can tune our breath. Changing the rhythm just slightly will alter the set of actions and reactions. And when you learn this, breathing becomes the most important piece of your life in general and one of the most powerful biohacking tools that you have. Because think about it, without breath, there is no life. You hear people talk about breath as your life force energy. The prana, the life force. But if you really sit with that for a second and think about it, without breath, there is no life. And that when I really embodied that sentence, that topic, it really made me have a much deeper appreciation and start paying much more attention to the quality of my breath and how I was using it, because I realized how important it was to my life in its entirety.
That's such an important thing because, your breathing is what is creating that life force, like you said. But, there's an aspect of it when people say that means all the time I have to be worried about my breath. Do I have to constantly keep worrying about it? How will I live? Like the breathing is supposed to happen as a natural process. Is it something that you use as a tool once in a while? Is it something that you use or you're constantly focused on?
This is a beautiful question. So why don't you look back at the previous years of your life? So our belief systems, our conditionings, our programs, the habitual patterns that we have in our lives, those are things that we don't have to think about. How we react to situations and how we view ourselves, how we view the world. These are things that have become conditioned in the body and the mind. So the mind and the body don't like change. And you guys can probably, anyone listening to this can attest to this. That first day you get back into the gym, it's like pulling teeth. Okay. Or when you're trying to meditate or change your nutrition or just be healthy or change anything, the body's going to have a resistance. So this is part of the reptilian part of your brain that deals with just survival and instinct. And so it doesn't want change because change is uncomfortable.
Yes.
And so the same thing with your breath. You don't need to be paying attention to every single breath. If you did, you would go crazy. That's why it's part of the autonomic nervous system. It runs on autopilot. But if you start to train the body by using the breath, the body will create its own conditioning. Well, actually, you create the conditioning within yourself. And this is taking a very firsthand approach. It's empowering. You were taking the driver's seat and taking the wheel and saying, this is the type of feelings that I want to have. This is the type of conditionings that I want to have. And there is a level of training that you need to bring into your body. But it was really cool. A lot of people almost become reliant on their breathing for their happiness. And then this is the same kind of mentality in regards to the pharmaceuticals and drugs. Oh, I need this to not feel pain. I need this to make me feel better. I need this to make me sleep. And breathing is not a one size fits all. There's not just one thing that's going to work for everyone. And it's not like taking a pill.
Correct.
But if you train in it for a period of time and you allow your body to adapt, and that becomes your new default setting, you no longer need to be so reliant on the breath, but you can actually focus on expanding on that and incorporating new things, focusing on other things, because your body is now becoming a well-oiled machine where it's all working in coherence. It's working together in a rhythm. And this is where you start to reach this optimized state. So it just takes time to condition the body. Then you don't have to think about it. You can start plugging in other breathing methods, rhythms, or focus points that are going to propel you into the new and next phases of your life.
Lovely. I love the perspective that you shared about breathing. It is that you can use it as a tool, and because there are so many different techniques that you can use. There is breathing to calm you down, there's breathing to excite you, there's breathing to heal you. There's so many different kinds of breath that you can use. But it's still your breath, right? It's that one thing that you're using throughout. And when you, like you said, make it a well-oiled machine, the breathing becomes natural. And your body gets into its own state of an equilibrium with those different tools that you've given it. Did I sum that up well?
You really, really did. And that's the funny thing about breathing as well. And what a lot of people don't understand, it's not about breathing more, breathing deeper, more oxygen. It's actually quite the opposite. In pranayama, the less you breathe, the longer you live.
Correct.
And so training in these tools actually help you to slow down. Well, if you train in SOMA Breath, that's one of the main focuses of SOMA Breath is training your body to breathe less. Because the less you breathe, the longer you live. So this is really important as well.
Okay, superb. So before getting into SOMA Breath, can you break up what a breath is? Right? So
I'm sorry, say that again?
What is a breath? Like, should we look at a breath in terms of, like you said, depth? Should we look at it in terms of timing? Should we look at it in terms of nose, mouth? Like, what are the factors that are there that we should first think about as breath?
So why don't I geek out for just a second for you guys? And so let me just take you through the process of respiration. What happens when you breathe? Okay. So every time you breathe in oxygen and glucose. Okay. That goes into the mitochondria, okay, then is converted. And when you exhale, you breathe out carbon dioxide, water, and ATP energy. ATP energy is the conversion of energy in the body. It's the exchange. So ATP energy is it is your energy source. Oxygen equals energy, but through the process of converting from oxygen to CO2, it produces ATP energy, okay? So that is kind of the gas exchange that happens. But when you breathe in, this oxygen, what happens is every time you breathe in, your heart rate slightly goes up, your blood pressure slightly rises, and you begin to activate your sympathetic nervous system. Okay. Every time you breathe out, your heart rate is going to slightly lower. Your blood pressure is going to drop, and you're going to start to activate more of your parasympathetic nervous system. Okay. So this is really important for people to know, because this is the beginning stages of being able to tune your breath to receive an outcome. So if I want to increase my energy, if I want to produce more of that energy and activate more of my sympathetic nervous system, well, if I breathe in and that increases heart rate, blood pressure, and sympathetic, then I need to breathe in more than I need to breathe out. And then the exact opposite as well. So if I want to lower my heart rate, blood pressure, and become more parasympathetic, which is much more of a flow state, this is where you're focused, you are energized. Most people think parasympathetic nervous system is like sleeping states or laying in a beach chair, totally relaxed. No, being parasympathetic means you're in flow, you're focused, you're clear, you're energized, you're making proper decisions. Because when do we ever make really good decisions or feel really well? When we're mega stressed out, when we're angry, frustrated, or upset. And we just don't. So it's really important that we understand how to kind of balance this. Once you understand this foundation of respiration, then this opens up the door to start to understand how you can tune the breath to actually initiate the response that you're looking for. And this leads me right into the next most important thing. And so most breathwork modalities It's breathe deep, breathe more oxygen. And if oxygen equals energy, then we generally think we need to breathe more. And guys, please get this out of your heads. Get this out of your heads. This is dangerous. Okay. Too much oxygen will lead to oxidative stress. And what can also be induced is respiratory alkalosis. This is the deterioration and the breakdown of your cells. And a lot of degenerative diseases, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and many more are created from too much oxygen. So it's not about how much you breathe. The key component to this, and SOMA is the only breathwork academy that I have found, and I've done a lot of research and a lot of training, that honors rhythms. It's not about the depth in which you breathe. It's about being in rhythm, breathing in a rhythm. So in the Ayurvedic system, they would always look to nature and the animals to find out how they should work. Okay. And so all of nature works off of rhythms. Okay. I mean, the rise and fall of the sun and the moon, the tides, the waves, the opening and closing of plants and flowers, everything around you is in rhythm. Okay. And so our bodies also work off of rhythms. So you have your circadian rhythm, your ultracadian rhythm, cardiovascular, circulatory rhythms, your body works off of rhythms. So if your breath influences your mind and your body, then your breath will directly influence the initiation of rhythms. Because your heartbeat, every time you breathe, you induce a heartbeat. So when you can breathe in a rhythm, then you're actually altering the heartbeat. And now what you're doing is you're creating what's called coherence. And this is the optimization of the functions in your physiology. So it's the difference between like a garage band, a high school garage band, and everyone's beating at a different beat, a different tune, and it's contracting. Same thing happens to your blood vessels, your capillaries, your cells. They contract when you have erratic breathing. Erratic breathing leads to erratic thoughts. Right. Erratic thoughts lead to erratic emotions, and your emotional state is how you perceive the world around you. So it's really important that we stay in rhythm and honor those rhythms as well. And so the same thing in the Ayurvedic system. They would watch the animals, okay? Elephants and turtles. They have a breathing ratio and rate of like 3 to 4 breaths a minute. Okay, but how long is their lifespan? 100, 120 years? Okay, if you watch a rodent, a mouse or a hummingbird even, I mean, their breath is like 40, 50 breaths a minute and their lifespan is just a couple of years. So this is how they learned that the rhythms of breathing are so important, but also the rate in which you breathe, slowing down the breath. Okay. And the other key component, which you asked, is this difference between nostril and mouth breathing. Okay. Mouth breathing is incredibly dangerous. You should only use mouth breathing if you are in a high intensity situation. Okay. So thousands of years ago, or even just hundreds of years ago, when we were living in the jungles and we had to be on high alert from tigers, lions, bears, all of these things, it was really important that we could actually stimulate the sympathetic nervous system using that mouth breathing and increase our energy levels immediately in case we needed to fight, run, or even hide. But the thing that's happening today that people really need to understand is that we're not living in jungles anymore. We're living in concrete jungles. So the tigers, lions, and bears are our bosses, our deadlines, our toxic relationships. Okay. But what's happening is we're not moving. In the jungle, they would stimulate the sympathetic, run, but their body would move. So they were moving and distributing that energy around. Okay. We don't do that. We sit behind desks. So we are still, by mouth breathing, activating that high of intensity to the sympathetic nervous system, the heart rate, the blood pressure, and the mind and the body don't know the difference between an actual bear standing in front of you and the thought of a bear standing in front of you. It's the same reaction. So when we are projecting into false realities, false futures, worrying about our bosses, our deadlines, and the social hypnosis that makes us think that we need to be somebody that we're not, then that is because we're not trained on how to breathe properly. Our mouths open, we begin to shallow breathe. Okay, now you're breathing like a mouse or like a hummingbird. And this is so damaging to your body. Now, if you're in a high intensity sport and you're trying to really get past that guy to score the goal, yes, that's a beautiful time to use your mouth and to breathe. And the sympathetic nervous system is one of the most beautiful parts of your nervous system that you have. So I'm not trying to shed negative light on the sympathetic. I'm trying to shed light that it's important that you understand when and how to turn it on, but most importantly, how to turn it off. Because if a zebra runs away from a lion, what happens after that is it'll restore balance, homeostasis. It'll lie down, it will rest. We don't do that as humans because we have deadlines and work schedules and things like that. So the important thing is that you learn to breathe in and out of your nose. Okay. Most importantly, breathing in through your nose. You can breathe out through your mouth. That's fine. But what you want to do is when you breathe in through your nose, you actually warm the air. Okay. And when you warm the air as you breathe in through your nose, you allow the air to drop into the lower lobes of your lungs. And you have more parasympathetic nervous receptors in the lower lobes of your lungs. Okay. Another thing that you do is you filter the air. You have these little finger-like things in the back of your nostrils that actually filter dust, debris, and toxins from the oxygen, the air that you're taking in. The other most important thing is it induces nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is a vasodilator. So this dilates your blood vessels and allows the increase of blood flow and circulation. And oxygen is in your bloodstream attached to a red blood cell. So now what you're doing is you're increasing the movement of oxygen around the body. Okay. So guys, the best way to breathe sitting at a desk or just throughout your day is in and out of your nose. This will help you to slow down the rate in which you breathe. And it'll also apply all those benefits I just spoke about. But also breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth is fine as well. This is something I encourage you all to pay attention to. How are you breathing? If you stop right now, is your mouth open and are you just breathing? Or is your mouth closed and you have a steady, slow, calm inhale and exhale out of your nose? So something very important to pay attention to.
That is such an important tip. Do you have any, a tip or a way that people can become conscious about this and start breathing through the nose better? Is it only a function of awareness?
Yes and no. So another really important aspect to breathing is training yourself in what's called intermittent hypoxia. Okay. And this is actually where you remove all the air from your lungs and you hold with no air in your lungs for as long as you can. Okay, when you do this, I won't go into super deep on this right now. I'm sure we can talk about it here in a second. But what you do is you train your body to be more efficient at using oxygen. So if we're open mouth breathing, then the body is trained that it needs more oxygen because it's not getting the proper amounts because the CO2 levels in your bloodstream are vital to using oxygen. And if you're open mouth breathing, you're breathing out all that CO2. CO2 is the magic molecule. I would love to talk about that more. But this is a really important thing. So when you train in brief or less or lower periods of oxygen by holding your breath out, the body adapts to having that less oxygen. It becomes more efficient at using oxygen. And this will help you to be able to breathe in and out of your nose because you've trained your physiology to handle that. Otherwise, yes, it's really dominant on your awareness because awareness is key. Awareness is key in anything and everything you do. If you're walking around as a zombie or a robot, then we're unaware of what our feelings actually are, the quality of our thoughts, the quality of our breath. So even just setting an alarm every hour or every 2 hours that just says, check your breathing. And in that moment you stop and go, oh my goodness, I'm projecting into a false future. I'm worrying about my boss yelling at me when I don't know if that's true. My mouth is wide open. I'm sitting here panting like a dog and I'm super stressed out. And then the people wonder why. And so you just have to take that little step of effort to set that alarm and check in with yourself. And again, over time, you will learn to just be aware and you'll be working and then you'll just go, oh my goodness, I'm sitting here like holding my breath in or I'm panting, wide open mouth. Okay. In through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the nose. You know what I mean? And eventually you train your body to just do it naturally.
Nice. Are you a believer in the mouth taping and all of that as a tool to use to practice breathing through your nose?
No, not really. Not really. I think a lot of spirituality and a lot of practices
is more important.
Have become a bit Americanized, and
Right.
Americans and the American system, the Western side, they're very aggressive. So, I mean, I'm not saying that that's bad or wrong, but like, think about what you're doing. Let's tape our mouth shut so we learn how to breathe in and out of our nose. Like, oh, come on. There's other ways to train yourself that's much more fun. It's not so, extenuating. Same thing. People are like, you have to get to be able to meditate in silence for an hour a day.
Yeah.
That's not true. That's not even close to true. There's many forms of meditation. I get on my motorbike and I'll drive for 2 hours. And that is some of the deepest forms of meditation because I'm not focusing on but just one thing, driving, and insights come through. And so I don't sit in silence. I pop on headphones and I drive my bike. And some of my biggest insights come from that type of meditation. Lovely. So I don't think it needs to be as challenging.
It is a go hard, go home kind of strategy.
Yeah, exactly. Cracking the whip on people. And here, tape your mouth shut. That'll teach you how.
Because I like it. I like doing it from time to time just to make sure I'm breathing well from my nose, especially when I have a cold before I go to sleep. So that's when I typically try and use it. So I realize that I don't wake up with that, that I was breathing through my mouth. But, Steven, you spoke about CO2. I think CO2 is such an important molecule that we have to talk about when it comes to breathing because everyone talks about oxygen. And that's rubbish because your body would not have oxygen without CO2.
Right. You nailed it. Man.
So,
Okay. This is probably one of my favorite topics because it shatters everything that we've been taught. And I just love it. It's a complete paradigm shift.
Yes.
So we think that CO2, carbon dioxide, is a waste product. And when we exhale, remember, when we breathe in oxygen. When we breathe out carbon dioxide. And we're taught it's a waste. Okay. And especially because high amounts of carbon dioxide are very damaging to the body. But now we're talking about a gas externally, not produced in the body. And so this is the stigma, the misconception of this topic. So stay with me on this. This is really cool. So when you breathe in oxygen, right? That oxygen is going to bind to a red blood cell, which it binds from the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is basically the glue inside of the red blood cell that grabs the oxygen and then puts the oxygen into circulation, right? So oxygen to red blood cell, hemoglobin glues it, grabs it to the red blood cell, and now the red blood cells are in circulation in our bloodstream, carrying the oxygen around the body. Okay, great. This sounds amazing. Okay. But if you don't have proper carbon dioxide levels, then you will not release the hemoglobin. So you won't release the oxygen from the red blood cell. That hemoglobin, the activation of the release of that oxygen is due to building and rising levels of carbon dioxide.
Okay.
So basically what happens is if you're shallow breathing, mouth breathing, what you're doing is you're breathing out more carbon dioxide than you should. And so your CO2 levels are low. So what you're doing is you're breathing in oxygen, it binds to the red blood cell, you breathe out all the carbon dioxide, and now what happens is the oxygen stays bound to the red blood cell. But that doesn't do our body any good. Our muscles, our tissues, the other cells, our brain, everything needs oxygen to be able to survive.
Correct.
Oxygen is so important, but you got to understand how important carbon dioxide is to the use of oxygen in the body. And this is why slowing down the rate in which you breathe. Okay, so if we slow down our exhale, this is why it's also important to always try and focus on breathing out twice as long as you breathe in. Okay. So if you breathe in, let's say for a count of 2, then you should breathe out for a count of 4. Okay, this helps build up CO2 because you're slowing down your exhale, right? If we fast exhale, all the carbon dioxide goes. If we slow down our exhale, then we're allowing the CO2 levels to build, and that is then activating the release of the oxygen and allowing it to go into the muscles, cells, tissues, and places that we need it the most. Okay. And this also is exactly why using what's called Rashaka Kumbhaka. This is breath retention. So like I was saying, intermittent hypoxia. Okay, this is where you remove all the air from your lungs and you hold. When this happens, your oxygen levels lower and your CO2 levels start to increase.
Okay.
And now what you're doing is you're really using the full potential of the amount of oxygen that you have in your body. And so if we don't have these proper CO2 levels, what we're doing is flooding our body with oxygen and then never using it. And too much oxygen will break down your cells. And this is why you're seeing a lot of autoimmune diseases, chronic diseases. It's because of the high levels of stress and unawareness of how we breathe. And so this is, I'm sure you guys have all heard of athletes going to the top of mountains and training in high altitudes.
Correct.
Why? Because there's less oxygen. And so their bodies adapt to that, having that less oxygen. It becomes more efficient. And it's using the oxygen much more effectively because you have the chance to have a buildup of CO2 in your blood, which removes the oxygen and allows it to go into the muscles and tissues. This is great for recovery, for energy, for your longevity. That's why these monks that live in the top of the Himalayas are 80, 90 years old and they look like they're 40. It's because their mitochondria is healthy. Because they're efficient at using oxygen and they're giving proper oxygen to the other parts of their body that are really important to your overall life.
It's so important because, so I do a lot of high altitude trekking, right? So I think the last big mountain was Kilimanjaro. Before that was a mountain called Stokangri, etc.
Amazing.
And because the first time I went, I was going to Everest Base Camp, right? So that is not very high. It's about 5,000 meters. But I realized how breathless I was getting. I had not trained. I had no idea about any of these breathing techniques. And I would bend down to tie my shoelaces and I would come up panting because my body was just not used to being in that state of a high carbon dioxide. My carbon dioxide tolerance was not there. You know, we keep thinking that it's actually the oxygen level that's dropped. It's actually a carbon dioxide tolerance that our body is not used to.
Yeah.
And ever since that, for the other mountains, I was practicing, like I was telling you about the Wim Hof method that I was using. And I would practice the Wim Hof method and then go, and I would be running up the mountain, right? There's no issue at all. And it's so interesting because when you look at your blood oximeters, the 99 that it tells you is only the oxygen in your blood. It's not telling you the oxygen in your liver. It's not telling you the stuff that is there in your organs, the way that your body is using that oxygen. And which is why these breath hold techniques, you know, the intermittent hypoxia are so important to get that oxygen into your organs, make them function better, make them healthier.
Oh, man, you nailed it. And I really like that you touched on the fitness side of things because most high-level fitness athletes, they understand the importance of breathing. But I just recently did a hike with the founder of SOMA Breath and a few other of us. There was about 7 of us. Well, 3 of us did a few rounds of this really great breathing pattern and then holding our breath out. And we did 3 rounds of that. And the 3 of us that did the breath work, we beat everyone to the top of the mountain by 8 or 9 minutes.
Yes.
And this was a high, intense incline to this Buddha statue here in Thailand. And it's amazing how much more energy. And I wasn't fatigued. I wasn't tired. And I'm not a crazy fitness trainer by no means. I was actually a little concerned. I was like, man, am I going to be able to do this incline? But that in itself gave my muscles proper oxygen, so I wasn't getting fatigued. It increased my energy level, and it really provided me to get to that next level of intensity without being drained, because right before the hike, I gave my muscles, tissue, cells, and organs all the oxygen they needed by using that method. And so I love that you touched on that. It's really important for fitness athletes as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember this one evening, we were all sitting at a camp and there were a couple of people who were really, really down and out. They were getting that, they were feeling sick because of the altitude. I made them do just I think 3 rounds of this breathing technique, like the basic Wim Hof. I've obviously not studied under him or anything. It's just that what I picked up from YouTube University.
Right.
But within about 10 minutes, they were fine. Headaches had gone. They were like chirpy and talking. And it's so interesting how quickly your breath can change this and affect you. Lovely.
Absolutely.
I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation. All right. So Steven, tell me about SOMA Breath. What is SOMA Breath? How is it different from all the other breathing techniques that are there?
You just took the thought out of my mind. I love that. So You keep referencing Wim Hof, and Wim Hof is a freaking pioneer. He's a trailblazer. That guy is an absolute legend. But there are one or two pieces to SOMA Breath that really differentiate from like the Wim Hof. And this is important. So one in which is the rhythm of breathing. Okay. So in rebirthing, holotropic, Wim Hof, they don't honor the natural rhythms of their mind, their body, and the importance of breathing in a rhythm. It's just this connected breathing, or you go with your own flow. Okay. Again, erratic breathing leads to erratic thoughts. Okay. Erratic thoughts lead to erratic emotions, and so on and so forth. So that's the interesting thing. And the beautiful thing about SOMA is that the music, okay, is all designed to have you breathing at a certain rhythm and rate to, again, achieve an outcome. So have you heard of the Schumann Resonance?
I have. It's the natural resonance of the earth, correct?
Exactly. It's the pulse of the planet. And this guy Schumann found a way to gauge the frequency, the hertz of the planet. Okay. And it's like 7.83 hertz. Okay. But if you convert that to a beat, like a beat per minute. So if you guys understand music, then music is designed on a beat per minute, whether it's 60 beats per minute, 120 beats, 140, 180. So the SOMA music is designed to be breathing at that same rate and ratio. So basically the Schumann resonance equivalates to be about 7 breaths a minute, or 7.5. Okay. And this is scientifically shown 6 to 7 breaths a minute to be the optimization of the functions of your body. Okay. Because of the circulation, the heartbeat. It's another terminology for coherence. Okay. But that's what we have is Neeraj, the founder, builds the music to have you breathing at the same pulse of the planet. And so just think about that. You are literally breathing in the same rhythm as the pulse, the heartbeat of the planet. And this is really, really, really cool. So the music design and how deep it goes is something that's very, very differential when it comes to any other breathwork modality. And the breathing rhythms. Okay. So there's many different breathing rhythms. And this is something we go really deep in our training about, are the different rhythms. Okay. So like I was saying earlier, if you extend your exhale, so you want to be breathing in like a 0.5 ratio. Okay. So if you breathe in for 2, you breathe out for 4. Okay. Breathe in for 4, you breathe out for 4. You can breathe in for 4 and out for 8. But if you breathe in for 1 and out for 7, that's not a synchronized rhythm. You know, it's incoherent. So that is what we really dive deep into, are the different styles and rhythms that you can breathe to. The other really big component with this is the mind-body connection. And anyone that's into yoga, meditation, spirituality, you understand the importance of the mind and body connection. And so it's not just about breathing. Okay. We use deep visualizations. It's called guided mental imagery. And this is really fascinating, actually. So the rhythms of breathing are going to affect your physiology and how your body is, in what state your body is in. Okay. But that's just the body. What about the mind and the quality of our thoughts? And so generally we're hypnotized into thinking we need to drive this car, BMW, have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. You have to make 6 figures, right? 100K is the secret number. Whoever came up with that, I have no idea. But if you think about it, it's quite ridiculous, actually. Whoever came up with this. So what's really important is you start to create visualizations in your mind. Okay. And in the law of attraction, the book, The Secret, and a lot of these trainers, they say to visualize. See it like it's happening. Visualize. Well, they're not honoring the mind-body connection. Okay. So in SOMA, we go deep into these visualizations, but it doesn't stop there. Then you start to engage the 5 senses. Okay. What it would feel like, what it would look like, what it would smell like. Okay. And now what you do is you generate a feeling. Here we go. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're connecting and generating a connection of that mind and the body. The vision has now become embodied by generating a feeling. Okay. Now, there's one more step that you just never hear about. Okay. And 95% of our lives are driven and run from our subconscious mind. The things that we don't even think about or know about. These are the programs and conditionings and imprints that we gather from our childhood all the way into our adult years. Okay. So if you're visualizing a beautiful relationship or a new business opportunity, or maybe just even becoming an entrepreneur or healthy, okay? Because I believe we're manifesting in all waking moments. And manifestations are not material. They can be, but it's also manifesting your health, manifesting your happiness, your relationships, the joy in your life. So the important thing is that if 95% of our lives are driven from the subconscious, if we have a deep-rooted imprint that we're not good enough, we can't do this, someone else could do it better. Okay, great. We have a visualization. We've generated a feeling, and that may be an elevated feeling like happiness and joy. But if we have a deep-rooted imprint in our subconscious, then that is going to break the flow of energy to create that manifestation and make it a reality. This is where breathing comes in. So your breath has the ability to raise your level of vibrational energy. We are energy. Every cell, every atom, I mean, literally, you have trillions of atoms, and they have literally a positive, a negative, and a neutral charge. We are energy and energetic beings. So your breath influences that energy. So when you breathe to certain rhythms and you use certain methods of ancient pranayama, what you do is you raise that level of vibrational energy. And so now what you're doing is you're getting into a flow state of passion, love, excitement, gratitude. And we all know that the most successful, happy, and abundant people in the world, they're at that vibration. They are in passion. They wake up inspired every single day. So this is where SOMA is endless in many, many different ways. Many, many modalities that I've trained in, they reach a cap. They have a glass ceiling. And in SOMA, you don't, because you understand the different rhythms. You can apply that to reach an outcome, but you also engage the mind. You engage the body, and then you use your life force energy to elevate and raise that vibration inside of you so that you meet the same frequency as your thoughts. And when you align the thought frequency to the body frequency, the feeling, then this is where you become a channel of light, and magical things can happen in everywhere around you. And you become the magnet. Rather than going after the opportunities, you start to attract and pull in the same like frequency as the opportunities that you want. And this is why people that are generally really happy and successful, their lives seem super simple and easy. It's because they're vibrating at the same frequency in their body as the quality of their thoughts, and they become a magnet rather than repelling, they attract.
Beautiful. It's all about synchronizing these various aspects of your life so that the struggle goes away, right? You're removing all the little things that are barriers that are pulling you down so that you get into that, into the state where you're not struggling with life anymore, but you're flowing through it. And I think that is such a beautiful aspect of what you spoke about. Because there's so many things that I think, like you just mentioned, SOMA is doing. Like I'm listening to this for the first time. So I didn't know about this, about SOMA. So how do people start with this? Like what is the way? Is it something that people can practice at home? Is it something that you need to be taught? How do you do it in a group? What is the format?
So a combination of all of them. So we call these meditations, they're about 20 minutes long. Okay. We call them daily doses. So this is where you're getting your daily dose of intermittent hypoxia. Okay, so brief periods of less or lower oxygen. So your body stays efficient at using less oxygen, leading to less oxidative stress, more energy, more recovery, happier feelings and thoughts, things like that. Okay, so this is something that is very simple. It's very easy. You can find meditations online on the SOMA site, on my YouTube channel, Breathe with Steve. You can find these and from our other instructors. We have almost 1,000 instructors at this point. And these are meditations you can do online. So it's actually very, very simple. Now, you want to go deeper into 1 hour, 1.5 hour routines, maybe even increasing the rhythm and the speed of which you're breathing, and you're going deeper into these breath retentions, this is where it's going to be really important that you train your nervous system to handle it. Because if you were to remove all the air from your lungs right now, okay, you're going to feel an icky feeling, a panic sensation. And this is that CO2 tolerance. Okay. It's the body panicking because it's like, when do you ever hold your breath out? Right. So it's so foreign to the body that you can feel an icky feeling.
Yeah.
Depending on the sensitivity of your nervous system and your CO2 tolerance, if you're depressed, deal with anxiety, things like this, it's really important that you work with a professional, one of our instructors, to slowly build up a strength to your nervous system, to gain more quality and control of your thoughts, your ideas, things like that can drive us crazy or can be the most powerful thing we have. Okay. And at that point, then you've prepared the body to go deeper. And again, another reason why there's not this one size fits all. We train our instructors to be professionals, to use breath as therapy. And if somebody comes into a class and they're not prepared for a more deeper, powerful session, this could re-traumatize that person from a previous experience. And now what they're doing is they're running for the hills. They're even more upset than they were when they came in. So it's really important that we understand the benefits, the effects, the results, and allow ourselves to move slowly in progressing into our own physiological strength, which is going to lead to strength in the mind as well. So anything that's really much deeper, I really encourage that you connect with an instructor that has been trained professionally to understand the science, to understand your energy type, your dosha, your, in the Ayurvedic system, to understand the quality of your health, things and situations that have created that health condition, and then how to plug in different pranayams. This is another misconception. We think breathwork is this thing. And breathwork is ceremony. You sit in a circle, people cry, people scream, they laugh, they shake. Okay, this is breathwork. I'm talking about pranayama, okay? The control of life force energy. Okay. And so there's many different ways to strengthen your mind and body before you do go into a deeper setting where it's a more drawn out 1.5 hour session that's focused on releasing something or calling something in or reprogramming the subconscious mind. Which is another really big aspect because like psilocybin, right? Hallucinogenics. So have you ever heard of the default mode network? Okay. For those of you listening that don't know about the default mode network, this is basically your ego. It's a part in your brain that associates your identity. This is how you identify with yourself in the world. Okay. This is actually what brought me into a very deep state of depression. And I became borderline suicidal years ago is because I had lost my identity. Okay. So this default mode network. Well, when you do a heroic dose of a hallucinogenic, like a psilocybin or LSD or ayahuasca, the interesting thing is that doctors, neuroscientists have hooked people up and done brain scans, and they show that the brain waves go into theta or even gamma brainwave states, which is like gamma is what Buddhist monks in the deepest forms of meditation are reaching. It's an expanded state of consciousness. Okay. But the other interesting thing during the psilocybin or the hallucinogenic experience is that the default mode network goes offline. And this is why it's such a powerful therapeutic tool to take mushrooms or ayahuasca or some of these ancient medicines, is because that default mode network goes offline. And now you can access your subconscious mind and actually begin to start plugging in the things that do make you happy, the beliefs and thoughts and ideas that you want to have that are aligned with you and your values and your greatest good. Okay, well, we had a neuroscientist hook up 6 people doing a 20-minute breathwork session, SOMA breathwork session. And sure enough, every single person went from, beta, alpha brainwave states into theta and gamma, and every single person's default mode network went offline. This is miraculous. I am so incredibly excited to know this, to hear this, and to share this with you guys. Do you have any idea how important it is to be able to get rid of that ego and that default, that identity that has been programmed, and to reach a moment of stillness where you can start to actually plug in the things that actually make you happy, not the things that you're told to do, but that actually make you happy. And so again, another profound reason to create visualizations, to create that mind-body feeling, and to use the breath in different rhythms, because you can reprogram your subconscious mind and get into that flow state where your life, you never knew it could be that way.
Beautiful. There's so much to take in. All right. So one aspect is I encourage everyone to go out and try these 20-minute meditations, right? I think that is the best starting point for people right now.
100%. Check out the YouTube channels, get educated on your breath, proper ways to breathe, which I've gone over a lot. But I highly recommend going to my YouTube, Breathe with Steve, or the SOMA Breath YouTube channel, and definitely check out those 20-minute meditations. Beautiful place to start.
Lovely. Do you want to teach anybody anything right now? You hooked up your heart rate monitor. Do you want to check that out right now?
Absolutely. Let's see where I'm at.
All right. So guys, we're going to be doing a short breathing tutorial, and I'll put up that video on my YouTube channel. It's called Awesome180. Just search for it there. So you can see what Steven's doing along with us. For now, you can just hear and follow along.
Beautiful. Okay. So as you can see here, so I've been doing a lot of talking, okay? And so because I'm doing a lot of talking, I'm breathing out a lot of carbon dioxide, I'm breathing in a lot of oxygen, and so I'm going to be very, very activated sympathetically right now. This is super common. It's just how it is, okay? Also, I've had a massive coffee this morning, and I'm excited and nervous, okay? So as you're going to see, I am mega stressed out. Almost fully. Okay. Right. My HRV is down due to so much energy and activation. Okay. So I won't go into the HRV right now, but what I want you guys to pay attention to is this LF score. See it up here at the top? LF, right. HF, and LFHF. Okay. So the LF is going to be my sympathetic nervous system. This is the power frequency of my sympathetic nervous system. Right. So basically that's my activation there. The HF is my parasympathetic nervous system and the power frequency of it. Okay. And then the ratio, as you can see, is 3.8. So as you can see, I am pretty stressed out right now. And I'm very activated in my sympathetic, which again is fine because I want to be sympathetic right now. I want to be in my flow and high energy, but I also can go too far. And if I go too far, now I'm going to lose focus. I'm not going to have quality thoughts. I'm not going to make good decisions. So if you notice during this interview, in between speaking, I am extending my exhale like I'm breathing out through a straw. So again, I am lowering my heart rate, my blood pressure, starting to create that balance, and also increasing the CO2 levels so that the oxygen I'm not flooding myself with oxygen, creating stress, but using it in the body. Okay. So what I want to show you guys right now is how I can shift myself from being fully sympathetic to actually the exact opposite. I'll create dominancy of my parasympathetic nervous system in literally a minute or two. Wow. And what this is going to be, I need to pull up this song, is by using a 2-4 breathing method. Okay. So again, I'm going to breathe in a rhythm, but I'm going to breathe. Let's see. Is this it?
Should people follow you along?
Oh, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. Because you guys are going to feel an immediate difference. Okay. 1 second. Let me just make sure this is the right song.
Oh, I should have got my HRV monitor instead.
Okay. Perfect. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Let me close out of this. Let me just share my screen real quick. So yeah, guys, breathe with me on this. Remember, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Okay. There is no force, no tension. It's not about how much we breathe in. It's actually about being in rhythm. So there's no pause or break between the inhale and exhale. It's a constant flow and wave of inhales and exhales in through the nose. And we're going to go ahead and breathe out through the mouth. Okay. And then I'm going to show you guys how this shifts as I do this. Okay. Can you tell me if you can hear this music and if the quality is good? All right, everyone. So just go ahead and sit down with your back straight, or you can feel free to lie down. Allow yourself to close your eyes and to just be aware of the quality of your breath. Smooth, connected, rhythmical breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. You'll breathe in for a count of 2, out for a count of 4. And this music and meditation will guide you through that. Okay. So as you can see, I'm still mega stressed. All right. And let's see if we can shift this. All right, let's begin. Now my nervous system is completely balanced. Now I've started to become dominant with my parasympathetic. We'll keep going. There you go. I have officially become dominant. So at this point, my HF is at what, 1600. That's what my sympathetic nervous system was at. So that's what I've completely switched it 100%. Absolutely. So I was at about 600 or 700 with my parasympathetic and about 1600 with my sympathetic. Now I am 1600 parasympathetic and 800 sympathetic. And that ratio is at 3.5, 3.8. It's now at 0.5. My HRV has increased dramatically, and it's absolutely amazing how quickly you can become physiologically very relaxed. Yes. Now, the thing here, though, is for people that don't train in this much, there's a good chance that their nervous system will spike again. Yeah. Okay. And that's why it's important to use this as a daily practice. SOMA is something you can use daily. And you won't find many other breathwork modalities that are safe, and not only safe, but increase your health by doing daily, because they're so aggressive and they're so, really aggressive is a good word to do, to put towards it. So, but again, this is something that you guys got to see in real life time. Absolutely. So think about this. Before you go into a business meeting, okay, your heart rate's up, you're nervous, you're activated, okay? Do you remember when you forget what you're going to say and you're like, and you look silly in front of all the executives? Boom. We just did that in 2 minutes. 2 minutes. So you guys can do the same thing, is to use this method and be able to incorporate that. And I have a ton of meditations. I have a stress course because I used to be corporate America. And so I wanted to apply breathing to stress. And I have tons of little 5, 10, 12-minute meditations that allow you to get into that flow state before you go out on a date, before you go into a big business meeting, or even how to use your breath like this during the business meeting so you don't get too sympathetic and lose your focus, start becoming emotional and out of balance. And next thing you know, you've kind of botched your presentation or made a bad impression on that person that gives you the feel good sensations on the inside. So, but it just shows how quickly you can adjust and affect your physiology.
Yeah. Guys, you have to see this video. It was fascinating seeing the way that your HRV just changed, right? And how in 2 minutes, you could completely change your state. And if you're constantly in that fight or flight, nervous, agitated, too many thoughts running around, this kind of technique is beautiful for bringing in that calm. And it might be just temporary. That's why you need to practice and practice and practice slowly every day till it becomes a part of who you are.
And think about if you were to do that for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you're again going to create even more dominancy to either, and you can do the opposite. You can actually induce the sympathetic as well. But it's just amazing. This is just 2 minutes. Think about if you did that for 10 or 15. If you did it long enough, it'll put you to sleep even. So,
correct. Do you prefer doing this in the morning? Do you prefer doing this in the evening? When is the best time to do this?
It really depends. In regards to HRV readings, those are the best to do first thing in the morning before you get any stimuli going, coffee, Facebook, computer, emails. But as for the breath work, I prefer to do the daily doses where I'm holding my breath out first thing in the morning, because when you hold your breath out, you actually start to release serotonin and dopamine and other different hormones in the body and neurotransmitters that'll make you feel good. So it's an amazing way to start your day. But I also use a lot of breath work to go to sleep. So I'll play a sleeping track and I'll use a very slow extended exhale, like what we consider a 4-8 breathing. And my clients love this because it puts them to sleep in 15 minutes or less. So it just depends on what it is you're trying to achieve. But first thing in the morning, maybe a little 5-minute in the afternoon to make sure you don't get too ahead of yourself. And then something that allows you to drop super deep and allow, and restore balance back to the mind and body while you sleep and you get quality of sleep. This is really important as well.
Lovely. And if you like, sometime in the future, let's geek out on HRV. Let's do another podcast on HRV. I think that is so important.
Well, and you'd be blown away because recently I've been doing some deep research on this. And when you hold your breath out, so we train in the instructor training course that like basically when you press pause on your breath, you press pause on life and your thought files reorganize and the whole body resets. And there is science to show this, but there was something always missing. And so I started to play around with these HRV monitors and different applications. And it's amazing when you hold your breath out, you actually balance the sympathetic and parasympathetic. So if I'm off kilter and I want to bring it back to baseline, if I hold my breath out, you'll see my sympathetic lower and my parasympathetic rise. And it's phenomenal. So basically, when you hold your breath out, you reset the nervous system. You bring it back into calibration. And it's really interesting. So I would love to do some more talks and videos on how we can play around with our own nervous system, heart rates, and physiology, and how we can achieve great things by doing it.
Superb. Excited. All right, Steven, how can people get in touch with you? I love this conversation. I'm sure people did as well. How should people get in touch with you? What can they learn from you, etc.?
Beautiful. Well, after you guys get finished testing out these daily doses, I highly recommend that you join our 21-day awakening breathwork protocol. This is going to be 21 days of SOMA Breath. So 20 minutes every day in week 1, 40 minutes every day in week 2, and 60 minutes every day in week 3. Okay. This is going to be one of the most powerful transformations you'll ever experience. I've taught about 1,500 people through that course myself. And that I've witnessed people healing their eyesight, mending their relationships, finding purpose, manifesting like 7-figure, opportunities. It's been outstanding. Okay. So get plugged into the community. I manage the instructors and a lot of the group aspect of SOMA because we believe community is the cure. So the best way to get in touch with me is join the SOMA Breath private Facebook group. Okay, all you have to do is hit that you're interested in joining. We'll submit and admit you, and you're going to see me all over that Facebook, encouraging people, getting them excited, helping them out. So that's one of the best ways. Okay. The other way is check out Breathe with Steve. That's my Facebook page is Steven Whitney, but Breathe with Steve YouTube channel, Instagram, and that's also my website, breathewithsteve.com. There's a contact form right there, and you can reach out to me if you want to go deeper, you want to learn more, even about our instructor training, or also how to get yourself maybe out of a rut or increase your overall health, fitness, and well-being. You can do that from my Breathe with Steve website or Steven Whitney Facebook page.
Lovely. Thank you so much. This was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. You can find lots more information on my website, awesome180.com, or check out different content on my YouTube channel called AWESOME180. That's Awesome180.
I hope you enjoyed that show. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. We're IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. It's been an absolutely incredible week on the network. We had so many great guests, so many great episodes. Advertising is dead. We had Faye D'Souza on. Varun took a break for 4 weeks, but what a bang he's back with. Siddharth Deshmukh celebrates the 100th episode of The Traveling Professor. It is an amazing show which I cannot say enough good things about. Please do listen to it. And a different Siddharth on the network, Siddharth Bhatia. He's just been like absolutely guest after guest, right? This week, Zoya Akhtar talking about Gully Boy. I couldn't imagine a more interesting conversation. Ragini Kumar is on 2 different episodes this week. She is on Cyrus Says and she is on Edges and Sledges, both in anticipation of her new show, Zindagi Diaries. Do check out her appearance on both of those shows and her new show as well. Tanvi and Shloko, the Millennial Athlete, had a phenomenal episode with Dinesh Karthik and Abhishek Nair. Absolutely riveting stuff, talking about mentorship in many different ways. Definitely do give that a listen. And finally, I have a request to all of you. We have our listener survey going out this week. Every year we send out a listener survey at the end of the year. We're doing it again this year. And we would really appreciate your help in letting us know a little bit more about yourself. Our advertisers are really keen to find out who is listening to us and more about them. Anything that you could do is kept anonymously, and we would really appreciate your help in this. And to sweeten the pot just a little bit, we'll be giving a randomly selected group of participants in the survey some IBM swag. Last year we gave out coffee mugs. What we're going to give out this year is still a surprise. So please do help us out. Would really appreciate that. And with that, I hope to see you again next week.
Are you constantly seeking happiness? Wondering how to make the most of every day? How not to let your inhibitions stop you from achieving your goals? It's now time to get your A game on. It's time to unlock your true potential. Tune in to the Empowering series with me, Zarina Poonawalla, to feel empowered in all genres of life. From behavioral skills to management skills. From health to relationships. From mental well-being to emotional well-being. And of course, your finances. I've got you covered. With these tips and tricks from me, Zarina, and true life stories from my amazing guests, you're bound to bring your purest to the table. Tune in to the Empowering series with Zarina Poonawalla every Thursday on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you listen to podcasts.